criticize violently foreign governments for allegedly doing nothing, describe migrants as deserters or profiteers, call for border controls to be reintroduced, in particular when this has never stopped to be the case, in particular the French and UK border. We've heard too much of this kind of talk in the last few weeks in our countries. And then there's another choice, i.e. to assume responsibility and to choose firmness as well as a humane approach. This choice leads us to seek to implement efficient solutions to control migrant flows, welcome migrants in a humane way, live up to our obligations with respect to asylum seekers, but also, and I need to emphasize this, fight the criminal gangs that are involved in human trafficking. Therefore, our reaction cannot consist in isolated national reactions, but on the contrary, in a concerted reaction among European countries. And that is the deep meaning of the attitude adopted by the British and French governments. And I'd like to thank very warmly my British counterpart, Theresa May, with whom we have been working in full confidence. The joint statement we have both just signed on behalf of our two governments is a new and important illustration of this cooperation between France and the UK, required by the serious situation we face. In fact, since last summer, our two governments have acted in a determined manner to come up with a reaction that is appropriate given the migrant crisis. I've come to Calais several times myself in the last few months to supervise the implementation of measures that have been decided and make sure they are indeed implemented. I've also the intention next week, on the 31st of August, to come back with the European Commissioner, and we will tackle issues we're dealing with today, but also other ones that belong to the humanitarian or economic dimension that I've just discussed with the Mayor of Calais, as well as the local MP. And I would like to answer their concerns with the French government. Our approach is pragmatic, constructive. We are listening to local authorities and we are looking for solutions to cope with a problem that requires a great deal of pragmatism. I must say, first of all, that we have improved the conditions under which migrants are welcomed, although I realize a lot has yet to be done. The French government has funded the setting up and operation of a welcoming centre, as well as the Calais Town Hall that has provided us with premises. Local associations, one of which is called La Vie Active, are also involved in running this welcoming centre. The European Union is also providing 2/3 of the funding. So this centre called Jules Ferry can provide 2,000 meals per day, enable migrants to take showers and have access to electric sockets. There are also measures being taken to provide help for women and children who are in a highly vulnerable position. Then we have also set up structures to ensure that migrants who can seek asylum are able to do that in Calais. They will be given housing outside Calais rather than give them the temptation of trying to use the Eurotunnel route, which is dangerous, if not fatal, very often. Hundreds of migrants have been able to leave Paris. We've called upon the European Commission to make a financial contribution so that they can help us provide places for the migrants who choose this approach, as well as the request to set up a camping site as a welcoming zone. The two European Commissioners will be in Calais soon to assess our approach and determine how much financial contribution the European Commission will provide. Next, our police forces are determinedly fighting criminal human trafficking organizations. 19 such networks moving migrants into the UK have been dismantled since the beginning of the year, versus 14 in full year 2014, i.e. the police force in France has been far more successful this year. No fewer than 514 traffickers have been arrested since January, i.e. 18% more than last year at the same period. Next, the French and British authorities have acted jointly to improve the safety installations in Calais. The British government has provided 15 million euros to improve the security of the Eurotunnel railhead in Calais. For its part, the French government has significantly stepped up the number of policemen in the area. All in all, today we have 1,300 policemen and gendarmes on the Calais site, 500 of whom were sent as reinforcements by the French government. In particular, currently 7.5 mobile police units have been deployed in Calais. I would like to hail the great professionalism with which these men and women of the law enforcement forces are carrying out their mission under difficult conditions to prevent migrants from trying to break into the tunnel. This is also an extremely dangerous temptation for migrants. Too many people have died or been seriously injured in the tunnel. Thanks to the police, the number of migrants attempting to break through the tunnel has decreased drastically. In fact, it has been reduced by tenfold. I'd like to say to the CEO of Eurotunnel that I really appreciate the quality of the cooperation that has been forged in the last few weeks between Eurotunnel and the French police forces. This determined action by police forces has saved lives and enabled criminals to be arrested, as I've already said. This has led to more than 1,000 foreigners who are in a regular situation being taken back to the borders, because we need to be extremely firm with respect to people who are in an illegal situation. And that is also a common feature of our policy implemented with the British government. With Theresa May, we've decided today to step up our cooperation with respect to security, fighting criminal gangs, but we've also decided to widen our cooperation to new fields, in particular the humanitarian welcome of migrants. That's the purpose of the joint statement we have just signed. What are the main features of this agreement? First of all, it's an attempt to improve security in the Eurotunnel as well as the Calais harbour. France has stepped up the number of policemen, as I've already said. The British government, for its part, is going to provide sophisticated resources to enhance the security around the Eurotunnel. Work has already started, in fact, on the freight tracks, for instance, as we were able to see when we visited the site this morning. CCTV and detection devices have been deployed. Eurotunnel has also used additional resources, and we have just signed an agreement with its CEO, Mr. Gounod, and the French government intends to help Eurotunnel, in particular thanks to a security audit carried out last week. We also need to improve the quality of the cooperation between British and French police forces to fight more efficiently human traffickers, to fight the international criminal organizations that, as I've said, are human trafficking organizations. France has insisted a lot on that point, and to ensure that our cooperation should be improved. And we've appointed 2 senior commanders. We met them with Teresa today, and they will jointly set up unified control aimed at dismantling human trafficking gangs. So a control and command centre will be set up in Cocktail with French and British police forces who will work together on a daily basis. The Calais Centre will be supported by the existing centre in Folkestone in the United Kingdom, and this system will enable us to increase the exchanges of operational information to be even more efficient in fighting human trafficking gangs. As I've already stated, our cooperation will not be restricted to security operations. We've also talked about the humanitarian aspect. In particular, we would like to improve the way in which women and children who are in a highly vulnerable situation are welcomed. Precisely because they are vulnerable, they are in the hands of human trafficking networks. With respect to migrants who cannot apply for asylum, our governments would like to facilitate voluntary departures to home countries in cooperation with French and British NGOs. But we also need to improve information for those who would like to benefit from humanitarian protection, find them housing outside Calais, and accelerate the pace at which their requests are processed. All these measures are, of course, expensive, and I'd like to warmly thank the British government for the fact that it will provide financial support for 2 years. So we're already talking about 35 million euros that the United Kingdom has already provided to improve the security and the humanitarian situation in Calais. And I really would like to thank my British counterpart for that. So these are the major commitments our 2 governments are taking to react here in the Calais area, as well as the south of England, to the impact of the migrant crisis that is affecting the whole of Europe. And once more, I would like to hail Theresa May and the British government for the quality of the relationship that has been forged between our 2 governments. The French and the British, and I'd like to finish on this point, realise that medium-term solutions to this crisis need to be looked for at a European and international level. We cannot merely suffer from the consequences of this crisis on both sides of the English Channel. That's why we're going to work with other member states and European organizations. In particular, we want to work with Germany to achieve progress in terms of migrant policy in Europe, as well as fighting illegal immigration. I will immediately, after this press conference, go to Berlin to talk over these issues with my German counterpart, Thomas de Maizière, and our meeting will also lead to a joint statement. The effective implementation of hotspots for migrants in Greece and Italy, enabling the authorities to register them and make a distinction between migrants who need protection and illegal migrants, is one of the main conditions that France and Germany have set to accept shouldering the consequences of this crisis. France and the United Kingdom and Germany will send qualified and experienced staff in order to ensure that we achieve progress on sending back migrants. Subsequently, France and the United Kingdom are calling for dialogues to be set up with the home countries of these migrants, as the heads of state and government asked on the 20th of June. This will be the case, for instance, in Niger, where the International Migration Organization will run thanks to European financing. And we will work for such a centre to be set up in Eastern Africa that will enable us to fight efficiently human trafficking organizations. So these policies we have helped to define. I remember on the 30th of August 2014, meeting my European counterparts, and I made suggestions that have inspired a lot of the ideas we are discussing today. We now need to move on to implementing these ideas. The reason why I'm going to Berlin this afternoon is to ensure that we can organize things in such a manner, to ensure that action from now on will be a driving force in terms of finding solutions. We have analyzed, we've made proposals, we now need to implement these policies. Before giving the floor to Theresa May, I'm convinced she will want to talk about what we're doing together. Allow me to remind you what was said in 2004 by Her Majesty, the Queen of England, during her visit of state to Paris. Our two countries were celebrating the 100th anniversary of their alliance. She said that NATO or our two countries cannot afford to lose their unity with respect to the crisis we face that threatens our prosperity and security. I believe, Theresa, that we have followed the wise recommendation made 11 years ago by your Queen. And once again, I'd like to thank you as a friend and on a personal level for your constant commitment in favour of solidarity and cooperation between France and the United Kingdom.